First Alert Forecast with meteorologist Joseph Eng.
Good morning, everybody. 5:46 now, and taking a look at your forecast as we start off our Friday. Temperatures back in a pleasantly cool range, middle to upper 50s for those north of I-10. It's more in the 60s for the freeway itself, and as you get down by the coast of Cameron, 74 degrees is definitely the warmest at the moment. But let's take a closer look at Oakdale, one of the coldest spots this morning. Feels like 52 degrees. The dew point still a few degrees lower at about 50, so I wouldn't expect that to drop too much more before sunrise. And if you look across the board here, dew points are largely a little bit higher than this time yesterday. And remember, temperatures can never drop below the dew point, and the closer it is to these values, the more the humidity is able to be felt in the air here. But for most of you, it's going to be a very pleasant start to the day. Still relatively dry as well. Satellite and radar perfectly clear in our region. Not seeing any signs of sprinkles or showers. And even on the bigger picture, while there is a little activity much further off to the northwest, it looks like that's not going to push much into our area, other than maybe a few stray bits of cloud cover for this afternoon. And the continued dry conditions that have made it pretty pleasant for most of this week are starting to cause a few concerns across the area, with drought starting to make a bit of a comeback. The National Drought Mitigation Center putting quite a large chunk of southwest Louisiana under a level 1 moderate drought, with the rest of the area just being under abnormally dry conditions here. There have been a couple parishes placed under burn bans already, and we could see more of those being issued. So make sure you're paying attention to your local advisories for those burn bans, especially as you start to make your weekend plans. Now, as for the breeze itself, that is shifting a little bit more and on the weaker side. So major concerns for wildfires aren't really up at the moment. No red flag warnings or anything like that, as most gusts this afternoon should stay below 10 miles per hour and more out of the east, but not shifting quite enough to really let southern influence back. So I wouldn't expect humidity to pick up by very much, except maybe a few spots right along the coastline. And here's a look at that on Futurecast. In general, we're going to keep the pleasant pattern that we've had for most of the week so far, all the way into this afternoon. The sunshine evenly warming up the area and leaving us more in the middle to upper 80s for this afternoon. A little bit less of a breeze, letting it feel on the hotter side for sure, but should still be nice if you want to spend time outdoors. Maybe a few very stray small bits of cloud cover for limited shade, but otherwise it looks like it will still cool down nice enough into this evening. The trend over this weekend, though, is going to be slightly warmer, especially in the mornings and evenings. High pressure shifting to our eastern side, already apparent with the eastern breeze today, and it might be a little bit more out of the south through this weekend, so you might see humidity rise just a little bit, but that alone isn't going to be enough to help with our rising drought. For that, we need some actually appreciable rain, which does not look like it's on the horizon, at least for this weekend. And heading into the next, those warmer overnight conditions should reverse pretty quickly as another cold front comes through Monday to Tuesday, leaving temperatures back below seasonal averages, where they may stay for the rest of next week. Getting a little bit further into that fall weather pattern, but typically we'd see a little bit more rain around this time of year. Now, as for your actual tropics, it's pretty quiet after Milton's dissipation into the Atlantic Ocean here. Leslie looks to remain out over open water, and even a disturbance in the far eastern Atlantic looks like its chances for development will be very slow over the next 7 days. So as far as our interests are concerned, the tropics look quiet for the next week at least, which is always good news and very welcome news for some as well. Now, looking at your local forecast, it looks like temperatures are going to be a little bit on the warmer side over this weekend, and maybe even getting more into the 90s as we get towards Monday. The overnights will be the biggest difference you'll notice, though, and those should get back to a cooler range once that front comes through next week. But no rain on the 10-day forecast right now, and it looks like that may not change through next week. So again, pay attention to those local alerts for more burn bans, as the dry weather may get a little drier before we get better rain.
All right, thank you, Joseph. And on the job find